Hello and welcome, I'm Austin Kopelarczyk, arranger and composer, bringing you episode 15 of my book review series. Today we'll be talking about Winifred Phillips, A Composer's Guide to Game Music. Now, Winifred Phillips is a composer who has composed music for some of the largest franchises in video game history. Franchises such as Assassin's Creed, God of War, The Sims, and many more. Her work has won her multiple awards, such as the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Award for Outstanding Music Composition, 6 Game Audio Network Guild Awards, including Music of the Year, and 4 Hollywood Music in the Media Awards. That's not to mention her long career in television and film music. But our focus today is her award-winning book, A Composer's Guide to Game Music. So the book is split up into 14 chapters and a conclusion, with each chapter covering a different topic that Phillips felt was relevant to becoming a game composer. The chapters are as follows. Why would you want to write music for games? A composer's creative skill set. 3. Immersion, how music deepens the play experience. 4. The importance of themes. 5. Music genres and game genres. 6. Roles and functions of music in games. 7. Preparation and workflow. 8. The development team. 9. Music needs of the game. 10. Linear music in games. 11. Interactive music in games, rendered music. 12. Interactive music in games, music data. 13. A game composer's technical skill set. 14. Acting like a business and finding work. After that is, of course, the conclusion, references, further reading, and an index. Now, as I read the book, I made sure to take note of what I felt each chapter was really trying to get across, because the titles do well for each chapter, but sometimes they're not as on the nose as I think a longer sentence could be. For example, the first chapter, Why Would You Want to Write for Games, basically discusses what kinds of composer wants to make a living writing music for games. Not necessarily the personality traits per se, but essentially that. You know, it describes these traits of a person as assets to the composer. Aspects of a composer that would make them well suited to the field, like a love of playing video games or a burning desire to contribute to this art form. Chapter 2, A Composer's Creative Skill Set, discusses skills that a composer will need to survive and thrive in the field. And I think it touches on an interesting point that you might not get in a formal education, though it does recommend getting a formal education. In Chapter 2, Phillips brings up that there's a bit of a divide between music theory and composing as an art form, and that anyone who wants to be successful in the industry will walk a fine line like that between the two, drawing on theory as much as possible while also sticking true to your gut and intuition when it comes to making good music. Chapter 3 talks heavily about the concept of immersion. Immersion in this case is a deep and emotional and mental connection to the world of the game. It's those times where you forget you're staring at a screen, that using a controller or a mouse and keyboard to move a little guy around, collecting things. It's when you become the character, when you live in the world that the game takes place in, when you forget everything else, even just for a little while. Phillips discusses the role music plays in creating immersion when playing a video game, on top of exploring a fair bit of the leading research regarding immersion and this flow state that most gamers can get into when it comes to immersion. Chapter 4, aptly titled The Importance of Themes, discusses how important themes and leitmotifs are to the music of a game and its storytelling. Take, for example, the classic Legend of Zelda game, Ocarina of Time. That game, it flourishes on the main theme of Zelda's Lullaby, which since then has gone on to be a major part of the branding of the series and franchise, with Zelda's Lullaby appearing in almost every subsequent game, as far as I'm aware. You know, Chapter 5 discusses different genres of games and how different types of music will affect them, and their marketing strategies. This is done through Phillips explaining a relevant study which associates game genre players with specific personality types, and how those personality types, which they posit in this study, are drawn to specific genres of games and also specific genres of music. Now, I could discuss the rest of the chapters and what I took away from them, but this is a book review, not a book report, and I would be here for another 30 minutes if I tried to do that. Though I will touch briefly on the chapter I found most interesting. Chapter 14, Acting Like a Business and Selling and Finding Work. Now, while the chapter, much like the rest of the book, is focused on the video game industry, there's a lot to take away here for any person who wants to be a full-time composer. The chapter discusses the act of being a salesperson for yourself, being someone who can find work, create relationships in your industry, and, in the best possible way, exceed expectations when you're given work. Throughout this 275-page book, Winifred Phillips gives away hard-earned advice from a career that is probably longer than my physical life. This book is chock full of wonderful knowledge from a true industry insider, and I cannot imagine a case where an aspiring game composer would not find this helpful. Phillips understands that her target audience for this book may not always be the classically trained composer, and while she advocates for this classical training, she encourages any musician with a love for games and a drive to succeed to do their best, if that is the career path they choose. As always, in this kind of review, availability. The book is available through both Amazon and the MIT Press for relatively the same price. Links to both locations are available in the description, as well as a link to the composers, as well as a link to Phillips' website. For my final opinion of the book, which is overwhelmingly positive, I have only a few things I want to touch on. This book, out of every book I've reviewed so far on this channel, all 15 of them, is unique in its outlook on composing, being willing to discuss it as both a business and a team activity. Composing, as much as we think of it, is typically a solitary activity. It's composers writing what they want, when they want, doing, or in the case of a commission, being asked to write something within a very specific set of guidelines, but ultimately the end goal is yours to choose. In video game composing, as Phillips likes to tell us, it's not a solitary activity. It is very much a team undertaking. You are working with a development team through the entire process. They will be giving you moment-to-moment feedback that you will not get in most other industries. I think that the fact that she touches on this, for me, is what might make this book valuable for any aspiring game composer. You know, this understanding of how to work in a team environment as someone who typically works in a solitary one. This book is phenomenal, and its award is well-deserved. Now, of course, if you've read the book, are planning on reading it, or you know something about game composing or developing, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the process. And if you've enjoyed the view, there are 14 others on my channel, as well as a variety of other content. So feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more in the future. And that's all. So thanks. I'll see you next time.